families in
What did they say?
They're saying, you know, people are mad. It's been peaceful for days, and then suddenly these guys showed up and flipped everybody out.
Yeah, I heard.
So that's what my family is saying.
I heard the same thing. I spoke to about 5 people that live in LA, that work in LA, and they said that these protests were very, very orderly. They weren't violent, and they occurred in about a 4-block radius.
Why is she struggling to say peaceful? What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So we're gonna watch this clip from The View. Once again, these ladies are gonna continue to pander to illegal immigrants while also at the same time raging about the Marines being deployed in Los Angeles. So this is a very interesting clip. Let's not waste any time. Get straight into the video.
The Pentagon has deployed 700 U.S. Marines to the protests of ICE raids in Los Angeles. They will be joining the 4,000 National Guardsmen already on the ground. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said it's in response to the escalating attacks on law enforcement agents and property damage. But are people getting a much different view of what's going on in LA depending on where they're watching this play out? Because it's quite different when you're talking to people in LA.
Yeah.
And very different than what you're seeing on the news.
Did you speak to people? Have you spoken to people in LA?
My whole family's in LA.
What did they say?
They're saying, you know, people are mad. It's been peaceful for days, and then suddenly these guys showed up and flipped everybody out.
Yeah, I heard.
So that's what my family is saying.
I heard the same thing. I spoke to about 5 people that live in LA, that work in LA, and they said that these protests were very, very orderly. They weren't violent, and they occurred in about a 4-block radius.
Why is she struggling to say peaceful? If they weren't violent, why not say peaceful? You see how she tried so hard to avoid saying the word peaceful? Because it's not peaceful. Everybody knows it's not peaceful. She can't continue and gaslight people and say that it's peaceful. So she says, oh, it's not violent. Just say it's peaceful if that's what you believe. Hilarious.
And we all know how large LA is. And so, in my view, there is no crisis in Los Angeles that ICE did not cause. That is the fact of the matter, right?
Looks like that.
And we now know that Stephen Miller ordered his order that they arrest 3,000 people a day, that ICE arrests 3,000 people a day, led to this. And what I will also say is, you know, California is the largest economy in the United States, has the largest economy. And it has sort of you know, it's the largest state, and it has a GDP that's larger than many countries. And so I think we have to look at what's happening from a bird's eye perspective and look at the why. Trump is militarizing that state as a test run, to make sure that he can do it in places like New York, that he can do it in other sanctuary cities. And so there is a plan.
Boom. Sanctuary cities. So she knows the truth. You heard that. Why does she not say all liberal cities, all blue states, blue cities, Democrat cities, right? Why didn't she not say that? But she only said sanctuary cities. Well, that's because she knows what's actually going on. She knows the actual truth, and she's hiding it, right? Because she knows that Trump is only going after sanctuary cities that are not complying with ICE and the federal laws. It's not ICE that's causing the chaos like she's trying to spin this whole scenario, right? That's the narrative that they're trying to push and get people to believe, is that the chaos started because ICE was present in Los Angeles. Well, that's actually the exact opposite. ICE was response to the crisis. ICE is not the crisis. They're just a response to the crisis that the Biden administration caused by allowing so many illegal immigrants to come into this country unvetted. So ICE is not the chaos. The illegal immigration was the chaos, and ICE was just the response. And the response is also due to the lack of cooperation from these sanctuary cities who refuse to cooperate with federal agencies. So these people trying to spin this narrative is insane.
And to this, in my view, and I really think that there's no question that the LAPD, that has 9,000 police officers, could have handled this quite well
But,
instead of sending in 7,000,
Let me ask you.
4,700
I think that's very astute what you say. I also think that he's using it as a distraction because his big, beautiful bill is tanking right now. His tariffs are tanking the economy pretty much. Even the Senate is not interested in that bill. And then we know that he had a fight with his best friend, Elon Musk, who dragged out the Epstein file thing.
He's deleted that.
What's more of a distraction than watching people, acting the way they are in Los Angeles? I've seen this, in my lifetime. And sometimes kids get killed when this happens. In my day, it was Kent State.
Yeah.
And they killed 4 kids, American students, and 9 were injured very severely in those days. And I think that they better be very careful what they're doing because that is the next thing that will happen.
So I expressed yesterday, I have a major issue with the National Guard going in and now the U.S. Marines. So to put it in context, 4,000 National Guard and 700 Marines, that's significantly more U.S. forces than we had in the wind down of Afghanistan. We had about 2,500 forces, and we were able to secure the entire country against the Taliban because the U.S. military is the greatest fighting force in the history of mankind, and their job is to fight terrorists, to fight America's enemies, not to be policing our U.S. streets. They've been used in the most extreme cases of civil unrest, but what I'll say here is this is where I put a little bit of onus on Governor Newsom. Show that you have the police force to stop the unrest and that it is completely unnecessary to have the National Guard there, to have U.S. troops there, because you can't deny the imagery that you're seeing. There are cars being lit on fire. There are police officers being attacked. There are guardsmen being attacked.
Though?
So
to
be honest, I don't really care if you're hurting police officers, if you're damaging property. That you should get your day in court for.
But nothing was happening like that until they sent
But this is where it's on the governor to say, let's make this the biggest peaceful protest in history. But the second it gets violent, the governor needs to crack down and show he's capable of policing.
I'm sorry, baby.
That's right.
Part of the problem is that Taco
Let
didn't wait.
Let me stop her because she don't know what she's talking about. Part of the problem is that the pattern of the left, the pattern of the Democrats, is violent protest. They don't protest peacefully. The BLM protests, the Antifa riots, the Roe v. Wade riots, right? All of these riots, protests were riots. They were looting and burning stuff down. So there's a pattern of violence anytime that Democrats or leftists or progressives are saying that they're going to peacefully protest. So Trump is just trying to get ahead of the violence, which it looks like it has worked. It looks like it has worked, in my opinion.
Taco.
Right.
But
Taco didn't wait for the governor to call him in.
It was the most predictable fight for Donald Trump to pick.
Well, yes.
Gavin Newsom should have seen this coming from a mile away.
That is correct.
I was listening to Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger today on TV, and I thought she offered some insight that was saying there's a lot of things going wrong here, and it dates back even to when California became a sanctuary place, that when there are sanctuary cities, it forces ICE and a lot of the law enforcement to go into the communities. So it almost puts the communities at unrest. And she was saying there's a lot of things here. Obviously, it was exacerbated when the National Guard was sent in. It also shows a disconnect in communication. Federal, when they call in, it should be working with the governor, not separately from the governor, in order to take care of the people on the ground. So I would say that there's a lot of things going on here, but none of it should be partisan. And this is why I say either we're for the idea of justice, and when people are looting or there is any violence, they should be punished. Or we're going to release January 6th insurrectionists. We're doing one or the other because it should be consistent across the board.
Let me show you guys something. I want to show you both. So all of it. Do you have the thing? I want you to tell me, do you guys have it or is it not ready? Hello, speaking to myself again.
There we go.
Okay. So can you tell me which one is the riot in Los Angeles and which is the celebration for the Eagles?
Yeah.
Philadelphia loves to burn itself down.
But was the National Guard?
But that still doesn't make it okay. Even the whole January 6th argument. Okay, let's just say that shouldn't have happened. That still doesn't allow what's going on in Los Angeles to be okay. That doesn't make any sense. And the whole January 6th argument is not comparable whatsoever because that was just one day. That was one day. And Nancy Pelosi, allegedly, and Mayor Bowser rejected to have the National Guard deployed as well. So nobody wants to talk about that. But that was just for one day. That's why it's called January 6th. It was for one day. And here's the difference. Here's the major difference, in my opinion. The January 6th protesters went to the Capitol, went to the lawmakers themselves to protest and let their voices be heard. They went to the people's house, right? That's where they went. The rioters and the protesters today in Los Angeles or wherever they're at, they're going after private property. They're going after people's businesses, people's cars, people's properties. So it's a major difference, and it's lasting for days, multiple days. So it's a huge difference if y'all want to talk about January 6th and all that. But here's the thing. If you guys were so upset about January 6th happening and y'all don't want January 6th to happen again, and you're comparing to what's going on now to January 6th, why are you okay with what's going on now if you weren't okay with January 6th? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, these people are hypocritical.
But well, that's the point.
Bernie.
The National Guard was not. Well, that's the point.
Yeah. Where's the National Guard?
In part,
I have a question.
Yeah. So, well,
That was also
the
for
difference
1 day.
is there's an agenda.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's an agenda. Now, none of the and I'm going to put it back on him because if you
Taco?
If you did not go in the way that you go in, if you had stuck to the thing where you said, we're going to only get the people who are the bad guys in the MS-13, if you had done that, you would not be seeing this because it would be done in a way where we all say, yes, we got to make sure that, but you going in taking 4-year-olds, you snatching kids from high school.
You mean that little thing called due process
Well,
that
due
the
process,
Constitution
but
allows for?
it's more empathy, man. I mean, I understand you're upset, you want to get this done, and people want it to happen. But I don't think anybody, not people who are on this side or the middle, I don't think anybody is happy with the way it's going down. When, as I said yesterday, when you go into a donut shop to where people are working, these are people who get paychecks and pay taxes. They don't get any money for, Social Security. There's no Social Security for these folks. But they're paying taxes. When you go in tactical uniforms to drag people out and you're not checking, this is what happens.
Yeah.
There has to be a better way.
See, man, oh my God, these people make me so upset because that argument still doesn't make any sense. So if you're saying that these people are here, they're contributing to taxes, they don't get any benefit from paying taxes, why do you want them to continue to do that? Why do you want them to continue to do that? It doesn't make any sense. These people piss me off. That makes no sense. If you're saying they're coming here, they're working their butt off, working jobs that nobody wants to work, they're paying taxes, they're not getting anything in return, why do you advocate for them to continue to do that? These people piss me off, bro. They make no sense whatsoever. I cannot stand these people. There is no consistency whatsoever to their way of thinking at all. And here's the thing, man. People want to talk about empathy. Donald Trump has been empathetic. The empathy came when he told people to deport themselves. You got a fair warning. It's like let's just forget, let's take illegals out of the equation. Let's just say that it's a criminal, right? Somebody that committed a felony. And the law enforcement or the federal government is looking for this person, and they put out a BOLO, right? They just say, hey, this person, you're on the wanted list. We highly encourage that you turn yourself in, right? And that person refused to do so. He's actually on the run now. So it does not matter where they go and pick him up from. It doesn't matter if he's at school, at a restaurant, at the park playing with his kids. It does not matter. He could be in the middle of having great sex with his wife. If they gave you a warning and told you to turn yourself in before we come after you, but you refuse to do so, then they have every right to come get you wherever you're at. It is that simple. Matter of fact, that happens to Americans all the time. All the time. Americans don't get the privilege of people being empathetic and not, getting arrested and getting a search warrant or an arrest warrant put out on them, and they get picked up while they're out with their family. They're in a barbecue, or they're at school, they're at work, right? They're in the middle of working, and the police come and get them. Americans don't get that privilege of getting arrested where they want to get arrested. So why should illegals have the privilege of getting arrested where they want to get arrested, or not getting arrested at all? This is silly. These people are absolutely delusional. They don't know what they're talking about. I can't stand it. So that's the same exact thing that applies to illegals. Donald Trump told you, if you're here illegally, it is best that you deport yourself or turn yourself in, or else we're going to come after you. So all of you liberals and Democrats mad at Donald Trump going to these liberal cities, these sanctuary cities, who refuse to cooperate because they're saying, well, Donald Trump said he's going to go after criminals. How can he go after criminals if those liberal cities are not allowing them to go into the jails to get those criminals? How do you expect them to do that? So they're just going to go after everybody that is an alleged illegal that is just roaming the streets. And it is up to you at that point to prove that if you're illegal or not. And here's the thing. The burden of proof is not on the federal government. It's on you. The burden of proof is on you to prove that you are a citizen or have a visa to be in this country. And that's what happens in any other place that you go to. If you go to Mexico and you overstay your visa, or you're still there during the duration of your visa that you were allowed to, and the federal officials approach you and ask you for your passport, it is up to you to prove to them that you are there legally. And then they'll let you go. And the same thing will happen to you here in the United States. So all of these arguments that these people make are nonsensical. They're idiotic. They don't make any sense. They're designed for NPCs, for people that cannot critically think for themselves, right? So these people piss me off every single day. But anyway, I love making fun of them. Let's talk about this video in the comment section. Let me know what your opinions are in the comments down below. Of course, if you are brand new, consider hitting subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.